So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today we're presenting the 2019 Digital Marketing Trends for Hotels and Restaurants. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box and I'll try and address them as we go through. And we'll also have some time for some questions at the end. If I don't get to all of you, then I will personally email you after the webinar to get an answer, as we do have limited time today. So I'm Dawn. I'm the CEO and founder of Virtual Solutions and the Chief Strategist. I'm a speaker and trainer. I've spoken at the Restaurant Show, Seattle Middle East, and I've done guest lecturing at the Emirates Academy of Hospitality Training Management. And you may have seen me on MasterChef Series 10 a few years ago on the BBC. So Virtual Solutions is a boutique digital marketing agency, and we specialize in helping hotels, restaurants, and F&B brands. We help customers to create exceptional experiences for their customers. And we do this through training and consultancy, done for you services, which include content marketing, social media management, and reputation management. So in today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the digital marketplace, changing expectations from the consumer side, the digital buyer's journey, optimizing your social media profiles, why it's important to have a Google My Business listing, how to enhance your online presence, managing your reputation, and the food and drink trends for 2019. We do have a special guest with us today. So joining me is TV presenter and registered dietitian Hala El-Shafi. She's a consultant nutritionist with over 15 years clinical experience. She's registered dietitian with the NHS in both the private and the corporate sectors. You may have seen her as the TV presenter of How to Lose Weight Well, Sugar Free Farm, and she's a regular guest on This Morning. She's also a contributor to the UK's leading lifestyle publications such as Grazia and The Times. So just Sharon, you can't hear me, so could everybody else just let me know if they can hear me, please? So I'm just going to address that to Sharon a second. Okay, Sharon, you might, bear with me just a second. Okay, so this is being recorded, so you will all get a copy of this too. So Sharon, if you're listening to this on the playback, you will be able to hear everything that we're talking about. So Hala will be joining me a little later on and she shares her thoughts on some of the key food trends that will be coming up in 2019. So in addition to the recording and the slide deck that I'll be sending you, I'm also going to send you a digital presence checklist and a reputation management white paper. We do have these for both restaurants and hotels, and you'll find the download link in the email that you'll receive afterwards. So please do add Dawn at virtual-solutions.co.uk to your safe senders list to make sure that you receive them. So without further ado, let's get started. It's fair to say that the digital world is now fully integrated into our lives, and with so much information available at our fingertips, it can be challenging to differentiate yourselves from your competitors and maintain trust with new and existing customers. But the more that you can plan ahead, the better equipped you'll be able to be to manage future changes in communication and customer expectations. Digital channels are one of the primary tools that people use to decide where they're going to eat and where they're going to stay. And in fact, 9 out of 10 people research their holiday online before traveling, and 80% of people are booking their holidays online now. And in fact, 85% of those travelers are making their bookings from a smartphone. Over 1 billion restaurant visits are influenced by online marketing. And that's part of the 3.5 billion Google searches a day. So I think it's fair to say we use the internet a lot. Now, when people are using Google for their searches, 64% of those people are actually using search for their I want to buy moments. So that means that they're actually ready to make a purchasing decision. So if they're hungry or if they're looking for somewhere to go on holiday, they're actually in that moment, they're looking to make a decision. So this is why it's really important that your website is fully functioning and mobile friendly. But we'll touch on that in just a bit. And speaking of searches, we've now seen the rise of artificial intelligence assistants like Siri and Alexa. And it's estimated that by 2020, half of all searches will be voice searches. So you need to consider this when you're creating content for your website. So have a think, what are your customers going to be asking? If you can answer those questions and put that into text, then your website's going to start, hopefully, providing everything else is optimized, showing up in the searches and driving more people directly to you. And of course, the more people that we can drive direct to your website, the more direct bookings you can make, which means that you own your customer data and you're not paying out the extortionate fees to some of these OTAs and booking agents. Social media's had a huge impact on how we search for information, and increasingly it's how we're going to purchase and order goods and services. So tools now exist that allow you to order food directly through Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. And with the rollout of Instagram shopping, I expect the channel to actually take that next direct food ordering and direct travel booking through them. So currently you can do it with third-party providers, but my prediction is that Facebook and Instagram, being part of the same company, they're going to want the piece of that action, and they're going to make that more easy for the user who's looking after their own channels to do. And I think we'll also see them integrate that with direct payment systems as well. And in May of this year, Instagram unveiled new action buttons that allowed it easy to, getting tongue-tied. Sorry, this is my first webinar, by the way, so please be kind. So Instagram's currently got an 800 million strong user base, and you can now, with the help of some of these third-party apps, actually make direct travel reservations through the app. If we have a look at some of the statistics, there are now over 3 billion worldwide social media users. So that's actually well over a third of the world's population using social media. And on average, people are spending 135 minutes, so just over 2 hours a day on social networks alone. And 71% of people that are using social media will actually buy products, book services, go to restaurants based on referrals that they get, not only from their friends, but also from influencers. And all of this has, all of these changes in digital technology have changed customer expectations. So digital transformation is forcing both hotels and restaurants to change their business models to adapt to this new reality. And what's interesting about this is that it isn't the companies themselves that are driving the change. It's being driven by the customer. And today's customer expects to find relevant information anytime, anywhere, in the format that they're different formats, so video, text, or podcasts, and on the device of their choosing. So if your website isn't mobile friendly, for example, well, given that most people are using mobile to look up for information, you're going to be missing out. So in order to keep up with this new kind of always connected on-demand customer, your business must embrace technology to deliver a customer experience that surpasses that of your competitors. And customer experience is becoming an increasingly important differentiator for businesses. So people aren't just looking at price points anymore, they're looking at the overall experience. So that's the experience online, that's the experience in store, and it's the customer experience or customer service that they receive. So we actually, for hotels and restaurants, we look at what we call the 5 stages of customer experience. So that begins with dreaming, and this could be looking at social media, it could be looking at magazines, it could be looking at emails they've received. And this is the stage where the customer's thinking about what they want to eat or what they aspire to eat, where they want to visit, what they want to experience. Once they've finished with the dreaming and they've decided that that's what they want, it's then time to move on to the planning. So this would be, how do they find that information? So this will cover things like opening hours, menus, availability, pricing, the reviews. These are all things that people take into consideration in the planning stage. Then we've got to look at booking. So as we've mentioned, a lot of people will use different ways of booking. That could be on the telephone, but more increasingly we're seeing that through apps, through emails, and now through social media. So you have to consider making it easy for people to book for you. And I know that that can be a bit of a pain, because you should think, actually, the customer should just come to my website and book. But as we can see, the customers are leading these changes. So we need to adapt to what the customer wants. Then, of course, the next stage is experiencing either your food or your hospitality in person. And a lot of people are using digital channels to help them with that experience. So that could be, if they're staying at a hotel, they might want to check out the hotel's website or social media channels to see what's nearby in the locality, places of interest that I could visit. If it's a restaurant, then people might want to order at the table through an app rather than waiting for a waiter or a waitress to come over. And it could also be that they're actually taking pictures and uploading that to Instagram there and then. And more often than not, we do see that happening all the time in restaurants. And that does then lead us into the next area, which of course is the sharing. So usually when people have had an experience, we like to use channels as daily diaries. I know that I do. I like looking back at where I've been and what I've eaten over the years. So we're going to have a quick look at the buyer journey for hotel customers and for restaurants. And this will differ from venue to venue, depending on who you're appealing to. But I just want to give you an overview of the things that you should be taking into account. So for hotels, people will start on usually social media. Obviously, TV and magazines and traditional marketing has an impact there. Emails from booking agents, from travel agents, from friends also play a big part in how people get inspired. When they're looking for their research, this is a lot of the time they will go straight to Google, and here's where you can take advantage of paid adverts, display advertising, organic search, and the review sites. From there, most bookings are made through a website, whether that's your own or a booking agent or their app. And sometimes direct, to the receptionist by email. When they're on the property, they're likely to look at, as I said before, your social media and your website to see what's about. And I always think it's nice for hotels as well. If your guest is booked in, why not send them an email with some suggestions of where they could go? It's something that isn't intrusive, it's not salesy, it's giving them added value. So that's the tip I'd like to share. And then, of course, post-stay, a lot of people will add their comments to review sites or to social media. And in fact, 64% of people will trust online search engines when they're conducting their research. So again, this is very, very important for that stage. And social media is extremely important for both the beginning and the end of this journey. The restaurant customer journey is slightly different. And 40% of people will learn about food through digital methods. So this could be websites, blogs, or apps. And 50% of potential sales are lost because customers can't find the information they're looking for. So again, you need to make sure that your website and your social media channels have that information. Do you have information there on your allergy information, your disability accessibility? Do you have vegan or vegetarian menus? Make sure all of those information is on there. So what I would recommend that you do before you sort of map out your buyer journey is have a look at who's coming to your venue. You know, is it mums and families? Is it couples? What sort of questions are they likely to ask before they come to you? So for the research part. And this will all help you then by understanding their motivations and understanding their journey. It means that you can create content and messages that satisfy them at every single stage. So customers continue to demand more from companies. The role of the agent has become more important than ever in keeping satisfaction levels high. Every interaction deeply impacts the customer's overall impression of your brand, and sometimes it can take many positive experiences to make up for one negative one. What we're seeing with leading hotels and leading restaurants now is that they're no longer viewing customer service as a cost center, but rather a team that can generate customer loyalty and upsell where it's appropriate. And so here's some of the latest trends on how you can service your customers. And this applies to both restaurants and to hotels. A second, if I can just get the pointer to go away. Technical. Bear with me a second, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So social listening has become increasingly important. The customer service should be both reactive and proactive, and it should be personalized and responsive. And social listening is a powerful way for you to offer proactive customer service. What this essentially means is that you can set up searches and you can use tools to monitor for brand mentions and questions, and you can geo-target those as well. So let's say, for example, you're a restaurant that offers delivery in a 2-mile radius. You could set up monitoring to look for phrases of people saying, "What should I eat tonight?" And then once you see somebody posting that, let's say on Twitter, you can then go and reply to that comment and say, "Why don't you try us? Maybe here's a complimentary drink with your first order," something like that. And this is a great way of building relationships without that person necessarily having to follow you first. So giving information to customers is very important. And by 2020, over 80% of businesses are expected to have a chatbot automation implemented. So this is really useful if you've got a Facebook page or a website where you've got live chat enabled, and chatbots can really help when you're not available. So if you've got certain office hours, or if you're in a meeting and no one's available to man that messaging system, you can set up a chatbot quite easily. And there's a lot of tools out there that are inexpensive that allow you to do this. And that can gather customer information such as their name, contact details. If it's a hotel customer, they might be inquiring about certain dates or types of room. So it allows you to gather this information rather than phoning the customer back and having to go through everything again with them. And for restaurants, you can use chatbots to give information on perhaps the nutritional value of your meals, your opening hours, etc. But again, this comes back to the buyer journey. So once you've got a really good understanding of who your customers are, it's easier to put these things into place. So when we talk about chat, over 48% of consumers would actually use live chat than any other means of contact. And I think it's because it's convenient. We've got our desktop browser open during the day at work, or we've got the mobile phone, which is our remote control of life, in our pocket. And it's a lot easier for us to fire off a message than perhaps being stuck in a calling queue. And we all know that millennials don't like using the phone anyway. So having live chat's really, really helpful. It's also really good as well if you're dealing with people from other cultures where perhaps English isn't their first language, because a chatbot then can speak to that customer in ways that they can translate easily. So that, again, just makes that customer experience a bit easier. And Facebook Messenger offers live chat integration with websites. So if you don't have the tools to offer live chat, you can use Facebook's free bot to embed that into your website as a great new way for a customer service channel. Similarly, this year, WhatsApp for Business was launched. And this is, I think, going to be a great tool that many businesses will want to use. The nice thing with WhatsApp for Business is that you can have a verified business profile, which means that when people are speaking to your company, they know it's a verified account and they're going to get proper responses. The last thing you want as a company is someone pretending to be you as a way to troll people or to, harvest information. I'm going to talk to you a bit now about how to optimize your social media profiles, because we know that social media is important. And I just want to sort of show you some of the features that are available and how you can best use these channels to reach your customers. So a common complaint that I hear from restaurateurs and hoteliers is that Facebook doesn't bring them any engagement. And while this might be true for the number of likes and comments that you receive on your posts, the real value that Facebook can bring is actual customers to your door. So given that we rely on social media to ask friends and families for recommendations, presence on Facebook is absolutely essential. Now, I'm just going to show you one of the features that Facebook have. And this is the Facebook City Guides and Local Guides. And you can find these on your Facebook app on your phone by clicking on the three dots at the bottom right-hand corner. And from the More option, you can find the City Guides and you can also find the Local Guides. So as you can see, hopefully from this video, you can look at places to stay, places to eat, you can search by cuisine, you can search by price. And this is all mapped out for you so you can get directions. And these little pointers will take you directly into the Facebook page. So while these people visiting your page might not follow you or like you while they're on the page, doesn't mean they're not visiting. And Facebook's put a lot of money into helping people improve their local presence. Now, included on each city's guide list is a list of places the locals go. Now, I'm the same when I go on holiday. I want to know where the locals eat. And if the locals are giving great reviews to a restaurant, that's where I want to be. So this is a really, really powerful way of using Facebook to drive people straight through to your door. And, 80% of travelers are more likely to book a trip from a friend liking a page than responding to a traditional Facebook ad. So it's absolutely imperative that you optimize your Facebook page so that you can take advantage of these features. So, despite privacy concerns and the Cambridge Analytica scandal, Facebook continues to dominate social media. And as of the third quarter of 2018, Facebook had 2.27 billion monthly active users. Now, that isn't the number of people that signed up to the channel, that's the actual people using the channel. Here's some tips on how you can reach that audience. Number one, claim your username. As you can see, they're configured as they would be on Twitter, and this can be good for your branding. Incidentally, that's my Facebook page, so if you are on there, please do check me out. You can add menus, your location, your opening hours, and your price ranges. Just seen in the city guides, that's an important piece of information that's displayed when people use those functions. If you add offers and events, these will actually come up in local searches. So let's say you visited an area you've not been to before, and the local hotel or the local restaurant has a special offer or an event on, you'll actually see that in your Facebook home feed, even if you're not following them. So do make options. The About Us story section is really important. As we said before, customer experience is the key differentiator, and people are looking for the story behind who they're going to spend their money with. So if you're sourcing local ingredients, if you're sourcing ethically, if you're saving water or banning plastic straws, this is a great place to tell people your story because it is going to help them in their purchasing decisions. You want to add your operating hours and set up one of the chat bots for out of hours inquiries. And you can also link your Facebook account to your Instagram account. And the advantage of this is that it gives you a lot more reporting options on Instagram. So you can see when people are engaging, what times, where they're from, and a lot more information so that you can tailor your content. You can also connect your online order booking app. And I do recommend that if you are able to use a video cover on Facebook, because I think it's a much more engaging way of showing people what you have to offer. So Twitter has, it's sort of like the little brother, if you like, to Facebook, but it has 330 million monthly active users, and it's frequently used as a customer service channel. If you are using it for customer service, then please bear in mind that 60% of people expect a brand to respond to their query within an hour. So it's really important that you've got someone who's monitoring those social media accounts. 85% of small business Twitter users say it's an important one for providing customer service. And customers agree as well. 77% of people feel more positively towards a brand when they engage with them on Twitter. And conversely, 81% will not recommend a company to their friends if they don't get an answer to their questions. Personally, I love Twitter. I think it's a fantastic way, not only for customer service, but to keep up to date with the latest news, to get involved in hashtag days and memes and spread awareness. And there's a lot of other functions with it as well, like polls and things. So it's a lot of fun. So here's some tips on how to use this. So the Twitter bio and display length characters were increased last year. So you've got more space to tell people what you're doing here and here. I would include a couple of hashtags in the bio so that you can reach a wider audience. So if there's a particular cuisine, or perhaps your hotel offers weddings or corporate meetings, you might want to pop a hashtag relevant to that into the bio. And the reason for that is that when you do a search for a hashtag on Twitter, the search results will deliver bios of people as well as the tweets themselves. There's a moments section on Twitter, and this is a great place to add important milestones. So it could be awards that you've won, it could be positive press coverage, and you could also use it as a way to, name and fame, not name and shame, name and fame your staff members, because they're going to be your biggest brand ambassadors when you've got happy staff. So you can also, if you're following quite a few people, it can be a bit of a pain to sort of keep up with what's going on. So I recommend creating lists so that you can see what influencers and journalists are talking about, and also people that are vocal supporters of your account. It just makes it a bit more manageable to connect with your strategic network. And finally, your profile cover, when somebody visits your Twitter page, that's the first thing that they're going to see. And while it's not enormous on the mobile, there is still the desktop of Twitter. So I would recommend using this area to promote special offers and latest company news as well. So moving on to the favourite of hotels and restaurants, Instagram. There's over 800 million monthly active users on this channel, and that's rising. And 80% of users on Instagram follow at least 5 business accounts. Now, I was having a look at this morning, and there's 305 million posts tagged with hashtag food, and 346 million posts that are tagged hashtag travel. So your audience is there, and here's some tips on how you can reach them. So number one, upgrade your account to a business profile and link it to your Facebook page so that you can take advantage of those additional stats. Use hashtags and emojis in the bio to add some personality. Of course, only do that if it's in line with your brand guidelines and your brand voice. You might think about including a branded hashtag. So for example, if I were working with the Landmark London, I would suggest to them to have hashtag Landmark London, because when your viewers and your customers see that and they start using that hashtag in their posts, it means that you can track what people are saying about your business, and you can share the content as well. So it's a great way of raising brand awareness. I also like to include a call to action in the bio as well. This, it doesn't have to be overly salesy. It could just be, sign up for special offers, or it could be, we're open, we'd love to see you. But I think it's important to tell people the next step that you want them to take. Now, if you have multiple landing pages, you can use a tool like Linktree, and that gives you a shortened link here. And when somebody clicks on that, it then takes them to a mobile friendly page where you can direct them off to different landing pages. So, for example, if you're a restaurant, you might have private parties, takeaways, or afternoon tea as an example. If it's a hotel, then you might want to talk about couples breaks or wedding packages or business packages. One thing that I think Landmark have done really well here is the use of the highlights. So these are Instagram stories, and what they've done is saved them as permanent highlights on the page. And as we can see, they're telling us about the atrium, their rooms and suites, their Christmas offers and their afternoon teas. So this is a great way to showcase key areas and offers that you may have on. And where available, I recommend integrating this with your booking or ordering platform, because the shorter you can make that journey for the customer, the quicker they're going to be placing an order with you, and the happier they're going to be because you've made it nice and efficient for them. So I want to talk briefly about Google My Business, because this is a game changer for hotels and restaurants. When you search on Google, no matter what device you're using, you'll usually receive results based on your location. And these local search results are critical for getting found and allowing customers to review your business. So Google My Business, which was formerly known as Google Places results, come up on the right-hand side here as a card. So you could test this for yourself now if you put in, say, Stock Rochford Hall Hotel or your own brand name, see what comes up here. And as we can see from this listing, they've got the website, the directions, the reviews. You can book a room from this page. There's the address, the availability. And with hotels in particular, Google redesigned their hotel search experience so that you can more easily explore and filter for hotels on your devices. So this is just an example of some of the listings that they've put together. So from here, you've got the maps, then you can see the reviews. Obviously, you've got the images, which are key. Then you can check availability. Obviously, if you're listed with multiple booking agents, it will show you the different prices. We're seeing ratings on that, whether people are families or couples, and there's amenities here and other details and other highlights. And then, of course, the albums. So it's really important that you take control of your own listing so that no one else is doing this for you. So here are my 8 tips for optimizing your Google My Business. Number 1, make sure that you've claimed your account. Add your business description. So this should be a summary of your key selling points and a call to action. You can post directly to the page, and those posts will come up in that card that you just saw. So this is a great place to put your special offers, new menu items, etc. The Google My Business has a question and answer section that's set up. Now, unfortunately, you won't get notifications on this at this moment in time, so you need to check in regularly. And it's important that you do this because anybody can answer those questions. So you want to make sure that your brand is answering questions asked of your brand. Obviously, Google reviews, it's important to respond to all of those reviews, and I'm going to touch on that shortly as well. Services, tell people what you've got going. If you're a restaurant, you can actually add your menus too. And I recommend that you do put video content here as well. It's one of the most engaging forms of content. And you could use this to show your venue, your facilities, the ambience of the restaurant, and, behind the scenes like the kitchen staff, etc. Then, of course, you can add a booking button. Now, that feature is only available in certain countries. I do believe that the UK is one of them. And to enable this feature, you will need an account with one of Google's supporting scheduling providers. And a direct messaging option as well. So this encourages people to contact you directly through that listing for their convenience. So just a few tips on how to enhance your online presence. So you need to ask yourself, is your website user-friendly? Now, 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to a site if they've had a bad experience. So ask yourself, does the website contain all the information that people want from you? Is it responsive, meaning that it can be multiple devices and still be usable? And is it secure? It's really important that your Google introduced mobile first indexing earlier this year. And that's exactly what it would sound like. It means that your mobile version of your website is the starting point, what Google include index. And it's the baseline for how they determine rankings. Now, this doesn't mean that it's mobile only. The desktop sites can still be included in the index, but the lack of a mobile-friendly experience could impact negatively on the rankings of your site. And a site with better mobile experience would potentially receive a rankings boost, even for searchers on desktop. What is quality content? There's a lot of talk about quality content, but what is it? It could be tweets, it could be photographs, it could be videos, it could be blogs, it could be ads, it could be newsletters. It's essentially anything that you're putting into the public domain. So number one, all your photos should be high quality, as this one is, and you can see that this has had nearly 8,500 likes. So quality images, it's worth investing in a professional photographer to do this. Now, if you can't, and you're taking your own images, there's nothing wrong with using a free app, like perhaps Foodie app, to make some minor enhancements to how it's presented. Don't go over filters. More than 80% of reputation damage comes from there being a mismatch between what people see online and what the reality is. I mean, I've personally experienced that myself, where I've seen an amazing dish on Instagram, and then when you get to the restaurant, you realize it's got that many filters on it that it's nothing like it, and it leaves a sour taste in the mouth. So photos should be high quality. Whatever content you're putting out, will it stop someone's thumb? If it's not interesting, if it's not fulfilling a need, don't post it at all. It's better not to post than to post something that's boring. Use a mix of content. Try and use videos, polls, galleries, albums, gifts, something just to sort of switch it up so it keeps people interested. Obviously, make sure that whatever you post aligns with your brand voice, because with so much noise being on the internet, having a strong brand will cut through that. So you need to make sure that you've got a tone and a style to how you post. Include a call to action. So as I said, this doesn't need to be salesy, but you should be telling people what you want them to do next. And of course, post in the right places. If your audience is on Instagram, you should be posting on Instagram. Now, having said that, I do advise that you name all social profiles on all of the channels, even if you don't use them. And again, this is so that no one can imitate. That's quite important. I want to share with you a little case study here. Some of you may or may not have heard of this. It's called Nugs for Carter. And in 2017, this chap here, Carl Wilkinson, tweeted to and said, how many retweets do I need to get for a year of free chicken nuggets? And Wendy's came back quite snappily and went 18 million. And that's perfectly within their brand ethos, because they're known for being quite quirky and having this kind of attitude. So Carter said, consider it. Now, while he didn't actually get the 18 million retweets, he managed to get 3.4 million. And actually took the title of the most tweeted tweet to date, taking the title away from Ellen DeGeneres. And as a result of this, Wendy's got an enormous amount of press coverage, an enormous amount of new followers, really demonstrated that they're a brand with attitude. And to date, Carter still acts as a brand ambassador for the company. So while this isn't going to be the case for everybody, I think it just really highlights how important it is to be human in your interactions. Social media should be social. So I just want to share this quick video of what not to do, and I think you should find this interesting. This is how likes are made, and this is a factory in China. Well, as you can see, they have banks and banks of mobile phones, and when someone wants a fake like, they've got two people running a computer, and as you can see, it all just lights up. So even though it might seem a good idea, you're not actually getting any human interaction by purchasing fake likes. Now, all of the social media channels are taking steps to limit inauthentic activity. Instagram announced a couple of days ago that they're going to be using machine learning to penalize people using artificial methods to boost their accounts. And Twitter this year has deleted tens of millions of accounts. I think the estimate was 6% of the total accounts on their networks were deleted. If you've recently seen a drop in followers, that's why, and perhaps you should be having a word with the agency you've been working with as to why that's happened. And it's not just likes that are faked. We're often... And funnily, in November this year, a chap failed selling fake TripAdvisor reviews. He'd been offering his services to hundreds of hotels and restaurants, but the court found that writing fake reviews was a false identity crime. So I think it's great that we're seeing this action from the major platforms. They're taking steps to make sure that engagement is authentic. So when you're working with influencers, you can start to ensure that they're going to be more authentic too. But if you are worried about the influencers, do let me know, because there's some information I can share with you after the webinar on that. Okay, so reputation is key, and consumers are likely to spend 31% more on a business that has excellent reviews. And it just makes people feel safer when they're purchasing from a hotel or a restaurant that does have good reviews. So here are some of the stats for these industries. 81% of travelers find that online reviews for hotels are very important in their processes. And 50% of people, well, almost 50% of people won't make a reservation at a hotel that doesn't have reviews. So it is important to, encourage your guests to leave you a review. 64% of people are using TripAdvisor to find better restaurants, 50% Facebook. So again, I think it just highlights the fact that these are channels that you need to have a presence on. Now, one of the biggest concerns that restaurateurs and hoteliers are having is how to handle negative reviews. And we've put together a framework to help you manage these, and we call it Handling with Ease. So number one, empathize. Understand that if someone's left you a negative review, it could be that they're having a bad day. Do approach these situations with an open mind and with consideration for the person that's left it. Acknowledge, let people know that, let people see that you are aware of the problem. So some companies don't respond to negative reviews. I say always do, because you should be seen to be doing something, not just for the person that you're speaking to, but other people at the reviews and what they should book with you. If they can see that you're taking steps to help someone, it's going to build that trust. So when you acknowledge that there's an issue, do so publicly, but try and take the conversation private so that it can be sorted out, between you and them. Obviously, you need to take steps to resolve the issue. And again, you can let the public know that you're taking steps. And then obviously, when you're dealing with the person privately, you can tell them exactly what steps you're going to do. And then finally, evaluate. Look at what went wrong, what happened, and what lessons can be learned. Perhaps you need to refresh your procedures and bring your staff training up to date. So I've got an example response from a restaurant here. And this is from a restaurant that has a 4.5 rating on TripAdvisor, and they've actually got 1,595 reviews. And I think we can see from the tone here that they've apologized, they've acknowledged the issue, they're taking steps to solve it. And I would imagine, given that rating, that they will be evaluating what they can do to improve their performance going forwards. Okay, so what's next? So I'm absolutely delighted now to introduce my co-host, who is Hala El-Shafy. So I'm just going to back in and mute her. Okay, Hala, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, let me just bring up the chat a second, just so that everybody else can just let us know if you can hear. Okay, could everybody just let me know in the chat if you can hear Hala?
Hello.
Okay, wonderful. So as you'll soon see, a lot of the food trends for 2019 revolve around health. So Hala's kindly joining me today. She's a TV presenter and a registered dietitian. Hala, perhaps you can just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I'm a registered dietitian, Dawn, and I work in media. I also have a brand called Nutrition Rocks, an online magazine. We've got lots of healthy recipes on there, and also food reviews from around the world as well.
Wonderful. So let's dive right into the trends. So the first one that I find is really interesting is fine dining takeaways. And what we're seeing is that more people actually want more at home. So, and I think we can sort of see this trend already in places, Tesco's, when you put their ready meals. Hala, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, people are really savvy now. So, a lot of people are, really into their cooking shows, especially as MasterChef, as you know, as the next contestant. And people love to eat out, and it's also about quality ingredients. So I don't think it's enough now just to have your average takeaway. People want to be able to experience that fine dining in their own homes. So yeah.
Okay, lovely. So the next big trend we've got coming through is food as medicine, particularly brain food. Now, I've seen this a lot in Dubai, where food's marketed as, where they extol the virtues of the food. And I think that people in general are more concerned about their well-being in what they're eating. And certainly we're seeing a huge trend in the hotel scene for well-being. What are the benefits and perhaps disadvantages of food being advertised in this way?
Well, I think the first thing is to ensure where this information is actually coming from. So accuracy is hugely important, because there are still a lot of misconceptions out there, and it's something that's a huge bugbear of mine. So, that there are certain trends that are being touted, such as alkaline diets and so on and so have you, which actually have no scientific basis whatsoever. So the first thing is accuracy of this information. Having said that, there is an awful lot of benefit from the types of foods that you can have in restaurants and takeouts. And, we are seeing a rise in plant-based diets, veganism and vegetarianism, and that doesn't look like it's going to be going away anytime soon. And the positive of that is actually we want to see people having, veering towards much more of a plant-based diet anyway. So restaurants and hoteliers need to catch up with that and to ensure that they're offering as wide a range as possible.
Okay, Hala, sorry, I've just noticed a couple of the guys are struggling to hear you a little bit. Is there any way you can just move slightly closer to your microphone for us?
Okay. Can you hear me a bit better now? Is that better?
How's that, guys?
Is that better?
Okay, well, hopefully the recording will pick this up properly anyway. So if you have had a couple of issues with hearing, then you should be able to catch that in the replay. Okay, so dietitians instead of celebrity chefs. I mean, we've got a lot to thank the celebrity chefs for. I think they've certainly changed the face of entertainment and are certainly responsible for making our palates, what's the word? It's gone. More sophisticated, that's the one, more sophisticated palettes. And again, you know, we're now starting to see the rise of dietitians being consulted. Is that something that you're seeing, being a dietitian?
Yeah, I absolutely welcome that. And again, going back to accuracy of information, it's absolutely key, because there are still a lot of myths and misconceptions out there, particularly around food and nutrition, which at least when you have a registered dietitian in place, you know that that knowledge base and the information that we are going to impart is accurate. I think it's fantastic that we've had this array of celebrity chefs. It's got people cooking again, and it's also made cooking trendy for men. You know, Jamie Oliver started that trend, which is just fantastic. So we have a lot to thank them for. Anybody that can get people back into the kitchens and cooking from scratch, you know, I take my hat off to them.
Wonderful. So I think we're going to see more collaboration with influencers now. For some people, that's a dirty word, and let's not lie about this. There are plenty of people that pretend to be influencers just so that they can get a free meal or a cheap stay somewhere. But I do think steps that Instagram's taking, and I think projecting out into the future, we're going to be following people that know what they're talking about. And I think we're going to start seeing expert influencers and almost public journalists as well as we go forward. I mean, how you're an influencer yourself, so what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think particularly for brands, hotels, you know, wellness spas, it's absolutely crucial that if they are working with influencers, they're doing these collaborations responsibly, and that they are getting experts in alongside them, you know, to work collaboratively, but to also ensure that misinformation isn't given, because that is one of my biggest issues around using influencers who are not experts, who are talking about, you know, we've seen this a lot in the wellness sphere, people who have no qualifications, either medical qualifications or nutrition qualifications, imparting advice which is completely incorrect. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, that does need to be addressed. So yeah, responsible collaborations, I'm all for, and I would like to see much more of.
Now, one of my favorite trends here is humble, simple food. I'm a big fan of some of these 3-ingredient dishes. And I think what we're seeing now is a lot of people turning to what we call mother and grandfather dishes that have been passed down. And we were talking the other day, Hala, about heritage and how food tells a story. So I'd love you to share your thoughts with the people here today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there is something about, you know, food that is passed down, you know, historically. You know, it's a way for us all to, you know, continue with our history and, you know, impart that for our children and our children's children, which actually, in fact, if we don't do that, it's going to be lost. And I'm also a real believer that we need to go back to basics. You know, at the moment, you know, there seems to be a belief that, you know, you need to have an extortionately expensive array of groceries in order to make a meal, and you need to be slaving over a hot stove, and that's actually not the case. For me, you know, the simpler the better. You know, the less time you're actually spending in the kitchen, you know, fantastic. And also, I want this to be inclusive and not exclusive, and cost does come into that. So, you know, the simpler the better.
And I think when we're talking about simple foods as well, a big trend that I'm seeing with hotels, and this is something that I'm a passionate believer in as well, is that when I go on holiday, I want to experience the culture, whether I'm in Cornwall or whether I'm in Yorkshire. I want to have foods that are local to that region. And if I remember years ago when I was pregnant, and this is a long time ago, I'd gone to Greece. And I really wanted to have, you know, some beautiful traditional food. But the place that we were staying at, the restaurants had changed what they were doing to try and cater to the British tourist. Yeah. And it wasn't a true taste of the region. So I'm really happy to see that there's this trend coming through now. And I think a lot of people feel how I do, that we want to experience the local food and, you know, the heritage foods.
I mean, of course, I mean, that is part of the experience, isn't it? When you travel anywhere, whether it's locally within the United Kingdom or further afield, you know, part of that experience is trying the local food, you know, and it helps you to immerse in the local culture as well, because otherwise, you know, exactly why are we traveling? I mean, for me personally, I love to experience different cultures, and that includes their foods.
I couldn't agree more. Now, you touched on this trend here, mainstream vegetarianism and veganism. So Wagamama, for example, have just had a worldwide vegan launch. One of the trends that was predicted for 2018 was vegan junk food. So I think, you know, more and more people are sort of turning to a plant-based diet. What's your experience been of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are seeing much more, we're definitely seeing a rise in plant-based eating. That's not necessarily vegan or vegetarianism, but much more of a flexitarian approach. So where people are eating, like I say, much more of a plant-based diet, but, you know, having many more meat-free days as well. And again, that is something that I welcome, because it does ensure that you know, people are increasing their fiber intake, that they're, you know, protecting their health, they're having a much greater variety and what I call the rainbow plate. So, you know, I definitely welcome that. The only thing that I would say, I'd like to see a move away from the vegan junk food, simply because whilst you can have a very healthy diet on both vegan and vegetarian foods, you also need to take particular care around how you're doing that. I mean, you can be vegan if you're just frying chips 24/7, but
that's very true.
Healthy, you know, sticking to just one particular food group. So variety is absolutely key, and making sure that you're having a good array of pulses. So yeah, I mean, I welcome that. And actually, to be honest with you, hotels and restaurants are going to have to catch up with that if they're not already, because they will get left behind. It's not
it's not a fad that's going away, is it? This is a trend, it's a movement.
But also, not just that, there is nothing worse to somebody who is vegan or vegetarian being served up just a plate of vegetables because, you know, the restaurant or hotel couldn't think of anything else. There are so many dishes, and we have a number actually on the Nutrition Rocks website that just look fantastic, you know, and if you aren't vegan or vegetarian, you'd still really enjoy these foods. So yeah, I definitely welcome that.
Awesome. And the last big trend, and now I hadn't heard about this until the next event I was speaking at a couple of months ago, is fermented drinks. And I think it was kombucha that I'd tried.
Yeah.
Now, you know a lot more about the fermented drinks than I do, so perhaps you can tell me a bit more about this trend.
I mean, there is a huge rise towards, you know, looking at our health, particularly our gut health, and that's where fermented foods and drinks come in. So, you know, drinks such as kombucha and kefir, which in actual fact have been around for centuries in other cultures. However, you know, they might be new to the United Kingdom, but if you know, speak to our Nordic friends or friends from Asia, you know, it's actually nothing new to them. But it is a huge benefit for our gut. You know, there is a lot more really interesting research coming out about gut health and probiotics. And this is a way that we can actually incorporate these into our diet without taking supplements as such.
Okay, lovely. So we're nearly at the end. So does anybody have any questions for either myself or for Hala? Please feel free to pop those into the group chat. Or if you'd rather speak, just let me know and I'll unmute you. Okay, so while we'll wait for some questions to come in, we'll just wrap up. So key takeaways. We can see that there's a lot of changes in customer expectations, how digital channels are being used. So what I really want you all to consider today is, yes, customer expectations have changed. If you don't already have buyer profiles or a buyer journey map, it's time to update or create them, because that will help you craft your messages, which is essentially what is going to bring customers to your door and keeping people happy. Laura, I'll just be back to you in a second. I'll just wrap this up and then we'll move to the questions. Make full use of your digital channels. People are using different they're using social media, they're using Messenger, they're using YouTube, they're using your website. So make sure your website's mobile friendly. Make sure you've claimed and optimized your mobile sites and your review sites, because customers want to find information when they want, no matter how they look for it and what device they're looking for it on. Be responsive. Engage with your customers in a friendly and timely manner, no matter if the question or feedback is positive or negative. Be shown to be caring. Finally, create exceptional experiences. Today's consumers care about health, they care about quality ingredients, they care about the level of customer service they receive, they care about corporate social responsibility, and all of this comes into the overall experience. And if you can make an emotional connection with your customers, they'll be loyal to you. So thank you everybody for attending. If you're not quite sure how you're performing, either visit the website or just scan this little QR code and we'll be more than happy to put a complimentary report together for you of how you're performing across your website, social media and review sites. Okay, so we'll take a few questions now. So Laura says, in your opinion, in terms of influencers, what is the recommended follower count that they have to be valuable? That's a great question. And certainly a lot of people believe that the more followers that you have, the more influence you have. Now, I don't think that that's entirely true. If you've got 1 million followers let's say for an argument's sake that you've got 1,000 followers and 1% are engaging with you, okay, that's great. But what if you've got 100 followers and 50 of those people are engaging with you? Much better to have a smaller amount of really dedicated people that can spread your message, because they become influencers as well. So I would look more towards the quality of the followers and how well that influencer's audience matches with your potential audience, and of course their values as well. Hala, you're a brand ambassador for I believe California Almonds and some other brands as well. Can you talk to us from your experience of actually being an influencer?
Being an influencer?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the reason that I'm hired from that perspective is because of my expertise. And from the brand's perspective, they can be 100% confident that when they're putting out claims, health claims into the public domain, that not only are they correct, but that through my expertise that they do due diligence. Like I said previously, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions out there. There's also a lot of scaremongering, and I'm there to ensure that between the brand and the consumer, that actually the consumer is protected. Having said that, the brands that I work with, I actually, to be perfectly honest, probably turn most opportunities away, because there is always that battle between marketeers and what you're allowed to say in the public domain and actually what is ethically correct. So, I only work with brands whose, ideals match mine, and it is around the ethics and obviously evidence-based.
Wonderful. I mean, I'd also just like to add to that as well, in that if you're a restaurant or a hotel and you're looking to work with a food reviewer, assess the quality of their reviews. I mean, there's phrases that I hate. I hate phrases like, oh, it was cooked to perfection. That's so, perfection is subjective. So if you're going to work with a food reviewer, you need to know someone who knows how to cook, who knows the terminology, not someone with an opinion. They're not necessarily an influencer. We've got another question in. Is content marketing an important tool for social media? Absolutely. Content marketing should form part of a larger framework. So if you're putting together a campaign to, let's say, raise awareness of your restaurant, then you have to think about how that person's journey starts and where you want to take them. And if you don't have a strategy and content that fills each section of those strategies, then you're not going to get anywhere. Yes, you could post what you've been up to at the restaurant, but without a clear plan of why you're putting that content there, how are you going to guide people to the next step? So with the different social media channels, content, as I say, could be any form of media. So if you're a restaurant and you've got a fantastic chef, why not create your own cooking series using IGTV? If you're a hotel and you want to encourage walkers to come and stay with you, write a blog on the best walking places in the local area, and then create content, post on social media that sends people through to the website so they can then take the next step of their journey. Any other questions? Okay, so if you have missed out on asking a question, you can always email me anytime. It's dawn@virtual-solutions.co.uk, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. It's been wonderful having you all with me. Thank you so much for treating me gently. As I say, it's my first ever webinar, so I really would appreciate some feedback as well. And also an idea of what you'd like to hear in the future as well. I want to make sure that you get value. Hala, thank you so much for being with me today. Really, really appreciate that. You mentioned Nutrition Rocks. I'll make sure that's popped into, oh, I have another chat coming in. I'll make sure that the link for that is in the email that goes out to everyone. Laura says, thank you very much. It's been very insightful. Laura, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you for your questions as well. So I'm going to wish you all a good evening. Have a fantastic evening. And I'll get this email off to you tomorrow that will have the recording and everything else that you need. So thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.